One, I think the minutes have reached a point of ridiculous as far as abbreviation goes. My entire description of what happened that I spoke at this last meeting was reduced to one line in which you could not tell if I was for or against what I was even speaking about. I think a perfect case in point would be as Chairman Guerrero comes back from his business trip and reads the minutes. I don't think he has a clear reflection of what happened in his absence. So I think we've reached a point where they're not doing the job of reflecting what happened at the meeting. I understand you can't put in every word that is said, but I think we have gotten way too far, and we need to take a look at that.
I also have a comment about the meeting minutes. And to start off with, I guess I fully understand that whatever I say here, although I'm thankful that I already see Evelyn typing, based on your new rules, that most of my comments that I'm about to say probably won't meet the minutes. But here goes. The intention of the public input is hopefully you can hear it, listen to it, and take it in. My feeling about meeting minutes is, as I've stated many times in the past in public inputs, is that it should reflect the tone of what happened in the meeting, not just the actual events and actions of the meeting. Such that if a person was to read those minutes, whether they were there or not, they were actually present at the meeting, that those minutes should be written as if I was actually there observing in person. If I missed the meeting and did not attend, I would be able to read the minutes and know that the events and agenda discussions properly illustrate how the meeting transpired.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we go back to the old ways of doing the minutes where they are in detail rather than in summary form, and so that our transparency of our minutes, the public will have a better understanding, and so will we.
I'd like to second that.
Okay, got a second by Councilor Paradise. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Well, I was one of the people that voted in the affirmative to change it, so it's a reconsider motion. I received numerous phone calls and requests from people to go back to the way things were, and I know the reason why we did this was to save time. But maybe sometimes time isn't best served to the public if they're not getting all the information they need.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'd also like to add, I did vote in favor of this at first too, and I thought it would be more efficient and expedite things. But it doesn't seem like it takes all that long to do it the other way that we had been. Things go relatively quickly. It's not like Manchester, you see that they've got to do it. They'd be there for half an hour every day. But so I think I'd like to see it go back the way it was. Much more informative.
Thank you. Councilor.
I'm in favor of that, you know, very detailed minutes, and that we take them out of the consent agenda permanently and go back like we were.
I think that's what you're...
I think that's exactly what he...
Okay.
I was going to make that motion, but we talked and he said to it, so.
Everyone else?
I did have a question. But I want to clarify what the motion is first. The motion is to go back to the more detailed minutes and also to take them out of the consent agenda.
That's correct.
So, Carol, I guess my question had to do with the legal aspect of it, and not the legal aspect from the point of what we're required to do and what we're not required to do. But minutes obviously can be used for legal evidence. Sometimes, of course, it's better to have more information, and then at other times, I would assume it's better to not have quite so detailed information. Was that side of it taken into account when the recommendation was made to go to less detailed minutes?
I think as far as the detailed part, it was more in line with not as much on the general items of small detail, but in particular a lot of the public input was getting voluminous in back and forth question and answer, and it wasn't to eliminate the intent, which I think some folks had mentioned. They couldn't get a flavor for what it was. So it should in effect be more than Mr. Smith expressed support. You could put that, but you could put Mr. Smith expressed support due to, and list, a sentence or two, what was happening with the minutes. So it's more a happy medium was, Mr. Smith asked such and such. Counselor Jones responded, and that was the back and forth. It was really verbatim. So it was more to get away from the total verbatim, a lot of it on public input versus, having a real good picture of it. So that's what the intent was. And it may not have been what ended up coming out in the minutes itself. But I mean, it clearly can take them off consent agenda, have them as detailed, but that was more, the reasoning was not to have verbatim, especially dialogue back and forth, because that's what a lot of them were getting to be, versus to get the intent of what the individual was expressing, support or non-support due to, a sentence or two, but it was getting more back and forth, total discussion. I don't know if that answers your question, but that was the intent.
And
I'd like to point out another inconsistency that's happening with public input, and we just saw it. I'm all for back and forth, but the back and forth only seems to happen when it's a comfortable subject. And when it's not a comfortable subject, the public is informed that it's not going to be a back and forth. And, I think as a public, I'm all for hearing what Mrs. Granfield just said because it's informative. But if I bring up a subject that is not so comfortable, I am faced with, it's not a back and forth session. This is for public input only, and we're supposed to talk and you're supposed to listen. So I think we need to have some consistency, one way or the other. It shouldn't be an individual basis based on the subject matter that's brought before you, whether or not you're going to comment.
Let's take a roll on this, please. Thank you.
This is just to reconsider?
No.
No, the motion
Change.
is a straight-up motion.
Okay. Councilor Limbo, yes. Councilor Beck?
Yes.
Councilor Longfellow? Yes. Councilor Paradise?
Yes.
Councilor Piscatola?
Yes.
Councilor Van Scoy?
Aye.
Chairman O'Hara?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Excellent.